Brandenburg, Germany. May 15, 1945. The schoolhouse cellar was silent, except for the sound of breathing 40 pairs of lungs, drawing shallow breaths in the darkness. Corporal James Mitchell descended the stone stairs, his flashlight cutting through 3 weeks of accumulated fear. Then he stopped. In the center of the room, a single piece of bread sat on a wooden board. The children ages 4 to 14 sat in a perfect circle around it, waiting. The oldest girl held a ruler in one hand and a knife in the other, measuring with mathematical precision. What Mitchell witnessed in the next 10 minutes would haunt him for 60 years and redefine everything he thought he understood about human nature under extreme duress. Before we continue with this remarkable story, if you appreciate deep historical narratives that reveal the extraordinary within war's darkest moments, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We bring you these untold stories every week, and we'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. Your support helps us keep these vital memories alive. Mitchell had seen combat. He'd seen men die badly. He'd seen cities reduced to rubble and civilians emerge from wreckage like ghosts. But nothing in his 3 years of war had prepared him for this, for the sight of starving children maintaining perfect discipline, for a teenage girl enforcing absolute equality with a ruler and blade, for the realization that civilization's truest test wasn't abundance, but scarcity divided with integrity. The American forces had taken Brandenburg without significant resistance 1 week earlier. The city was a labyrinth of damaged buildings and frightened civilians emerging from cellars where they'd hidden during the final chaotic weeks of combat. Mitchell's Civil Affairs Unit was tasked with locating civilians in need of immediate assistance, a mission that revealed fresh horrors daily. Every structure held stories of suffering. Every face showed trauma that would take generations to heal. On this particular morning, Mitchell and Private Danny O'Connor were searching a damaged school building in Brandenburg's eastern district. The main structure was partially collapsed, but the foundation appeared intact. They found the cellar entrance behind debris. Mitchell called down in his basic German, "Is anyone there?" "We are American soldiers. We are here to help." Silence. Then a small voice, a girl's voice, responding, "We are children, 40 children. Please don't hurt us." The smell hit them first as they descended, unwashed bodies, waste, fear, fermented into something almost tangible. Then the light revealed them. Children everywhere, ranging from toddlers to teenagers, sitting on the stone floor, pressed against walls, staring at the Americans with eyes that had seen too much. They were filthy, emaciated, dressed in rags. Some shook with cold or fear. Others simply stared, beyond fear, in a state of shock that transcended emotion. The oldest appeared to be a girl of about 14, standing protectively in front of the younger ones. She spoke in halting English. "We have been here 3 weeks since the fighting came close. Our teachers told us to hide here. They said they would come back. They did not come back." Mitchell felt his stomach turn. 3 weeks. "What have you been eating?" he asked. The girl, her name was Greta Hoffman, replied quietly, "What we could find. There was food stored here initially. It is gone now. We have water from a pipe, but no food for 4 days now." O'Connor was already on his radio calling for immediate assistance, medical personnel, food supplies, transport. Mitchell knelt to Greta's level. "You've done well. Help is coming." "I's coming." We're going to get you all out of here, get you fed and safe. Greta's composure cracked slightly. Thank you. They are very hungry, the little ones especially. Mitchell reached into his pack and pulled out his rations, chocolate bars, crackers, canned meat. He started handing them out, but Greta stopped him. Wait, please wait. Mitchell looked at her, confused. They're hungry. They need food. Greta nodded. Yes, but not like this. We have a system for fairness. While they waited for additional supplies, Mitchell watched what Greta called their system. She explained it carefully, as if describing something sacred. When they'd first arrived in the cellar, there had been some food from the school storage, but not much for 40 children. They'd realized quickly that if everyone took what they wanted, some would eat too much and others would starve. So Greta created rules. Everyone sits in a circle. Whatever food they have goes in the center. Greta measures it. Then she divides it into exactly 40 equal portions. No one gets more, no one gets less. The youngest eat first, but everyone gets the same amount. How do you measure it exactly? Mitchell asked. Greta held up a wooden ruler and a kitchen knife. I measure. I cut precisely. I count. If it's bread, I measure the length and divide by 40. If it's something that can't be divided exactly like a single potato, I cut it and weigh the pieces by feel until they balance. Mitchell stared at her. This 14-year-old girl had created a system of perfect egalitarian distribution in a cellar with no adults, managing 40 children through starvation by sheer force of will and mathematics. Show me, he said quietly. Greta nodded. She pulled something from a cloth, a single piece of bread, perhaps 8 inches long, hard and stale, but still bread, the last food they had. This is what remained this morning. I was saving it for tonight. But since you are here and help is coming, perhaps we should share it now to give the children hope. She placed the bread on a wooden board in the center of the circle, the children's eyes fixed on it with an intensity that was painful to witness. None moved toward it. None reached out. They just watched, waiting. Greta took the ruler and laid it alongside the bread. 8 inches. She spoke to the children in German, explaining something. Mitchell caught enough to understand. 40 portions, each exactly 0.2 inches. She took the knife and began cutting, not roughly or quickly, but with absolute precision, marking each cut with the ruler, ensuring mathematical accuracy. The first slice a thin piece barely thicker than paper. She held it up to the light, checking that it matched her calculations. 0.2 inches. She placed it on the board. Then she cut another and another, each exactly the same thickness. The children watched in absolute silence. Mitchell felt his throat constrict. O'Connor, standing beside him, was openly crying. They were watching 40 starving children divide a single piece of bread with more precision and fairness than most adults could achieve with abundance. The process took 15 minutes. Greta cut slowly, carefully, ensuring each portion was exactly equal. When she finished, 40 tiny pieces lay arranged on the board, each one absurdly small, barely a mouthful, but each exactly the same as the others. Then Greta did something that broke Mitchell completely. She counted the pieces. 40. Perfect. But then she took one her own portion and divided it into 40 more pieces. Tiny crumbs, really. She distributed these crumbs back into the other portions. Why did you do that? Mitchell asked, his voice rough. Greta looked at him simply. Because I am the oldest. I can endure hunger better than the small ones. So I take a little from my portion and give it to them. It's not much, but every crumb helps. She gestured to the youngest child, a girl perhaps 4 years old, holding her tiny slice of bread like precious treasure. That is Elsa. She is 4. She has not eaten in 4 days, but she waited her turn and took only her fair portion. She understands fairness even at 4 years old. The children began eating their portions, not frantically or quickly, but slowly, savoring each microscopic bite, making it last, chewing thoroughly, to extract maximum nutrition and satisfaction from minimal substance. None asked for more. None complained that the portions were too small. They accepted what they received with a grace that transcended their years. Mitchell watched a boy of about 6 take 20 minutes to eat his piece, holding it carefully, nibbling the edges, eyes closed in concentration, making it last as long as possible. When he finished, he licked his fingers to catch every crumb and sat back with an expression that suggested he'd just eaten a feast. "How long have you been doing this?" Mitchell asked Greta. "This precise division," she replied quietly, "since the 3rd day when I realized our food would not last. At first, some children wanted more. Some tried to take extra. I had to be firm. I explained that fairness was survival, that if anyone took more, someone else would die. Once they understood that, they accepted the system, and it worked. For 3 weeks, no one cheated. Not once. The story emerged gradually as they waited for relief supplies. The school had been a shelter for children whose parents were gone, taken for service, lost to bombing, disappeared into the chaos of war's end. The teachers had tried to care for them as the city emptied and fighting approached. When the battle reached Brandenburg, the teachers had moved all 40 children to the cellar, promising to return with supplies. They never came. Whether they were killed, captured, or simply fled, no one knew. The children were alone. Greta, as the oldest, took command. She organized water collection from the pipe in the corner. She established bathroom protocols. She created the food division system. She maintained hope and discipline even as their situation grew desperate. "Weren't you scared?" Mitchell asked. Greta's answer was immediate. "Terrified, every moment, but I couldn't show it. The little ones needed someone to be strong. So I pretended I wasn't afraid, even when I was." Mitchell understood what he was witnessing. This wasn't just survival. This was civilization maintained in its purest form, a system of justice and equality enforced by a 14-year-old girl in a dark cellar where 40 children refused to abandon their humanity even as they starved. Years later, Mitchell would write in his journal, "I'd seen soldiers share rations under fire. I'd seen medics give their own blood to save wounded men, but I'd never seen anything like Greta's circle. 40 starving children maintaining perfect discipline because one girl insisted on fairness with a ruler and knife. It was the most profound act of leadership I witnessed in the entire war." 2 hours after the initial discovery, trucks arrived with supplies. Medical personnel descended into the cellar with flashlights, blankets, and food. The children were examined quickly. All showed signs of severe malnutrition and dehydration, but none were in immediate medical danger. Captain Robert Morrison, the medical officer, stood in the cellar watching his team work. Mitchell briefed him on what he'd witnessed, the division system, Greta's leadership, the mathematical precision of starvation. Morrison shook his head slowly. "I've been doing this for 3 years. I've seen combat wounds, disease, mass casualties, but I've never seen anything like this. 40 children maintaining perfect discipline and fairness while starving. It shouldn't be possible. The evacuation began carefully. Children were carried out, wrapped in blankets, given small amounts of food. Too much too quickly would be dangerous after prolonged starvation. They were transported to a temporary hospital facility where they could be properly fed and monitored as their bodies adjusted to nourishment. Greta refused to leave until all 40 children were out safely. She counted them as they were carried up the stairs, checking off names on a list she'd maintained throughout their ordeal. Only when the last child, little Elsa, the 4-year-old, was safely out, did Greta allow herself to be helped up the stairs. At the top she stumbled. Mitchell caught her. She was shaking, adrenaline crash, relief, exhaustion, malnutrition, all hitting at once. "It's over," Mitchell said. "You did it. You kept them alive," Greta whispered. "All 40? When he confirmed, she collapsed, crying for the 3 weeks she had held together. She had done what many adults could not, kept 40 children alive through fairness and determination. News spread quickly. Officers, journalists, photographers sought her out. Greta refused most attention, caring only that her children were safe. Weeks later, their fates emerged. 8 reclaimed by relatives, 15 to orphanages, 17 Greta, among them alone. At 14, too old for easy adoption, too young to be independent, she had saved lives but faced an uncertain future. He wrote to his parents in Iowa, explaining what had happened, describing Greta's actions. His mother, Martha Mitchell, wrote back quickly. Mitchell's sister Catherine and her husband Thomas, who'd been trying to have children for years without success, would be honored to bring this girl to America to give her a home and family. When Catherine Mitchell Brennan learned about Greta's story, she responded immediately. A child who can maintain fairness while starving, who can lead 40 children through crisis, who can sacrifice her own portion to help the weakest. This is someone we would be proud to call our daughter. The adoption process was complex but not impossible. Mitchell coordinated everything, working with military administration and German civilian officials. He explained the opportunity to Greta carefully. "They want to adopt you. My sister and her husband. They want a daughter. They know what you did in the cellar. They want to give you a home, a future, a family." Greta was quiet for a long time. Then she asked something that revealed how young she still was. "Would they really want me, even knowing I'm German? Even after the war?" Mitchell's answer was firm. "They want you because of who you are, not despite where you're from. Character transcends nationality, Greta." Greta agonized over leaving Germany and the orphans she loved. In the hospital, she told them of her American adoption. Elsa cried, fearing loss. Greta reassured her. They were safe now. Friedrich urged her to go, saying, "You kept us alive. Now live the life you deserve." In August 1945, Greta Hoffmann boarded a ship in Bremen bound for New York, accompanied by Mitchell and a group of orphans awaiting adoption. The night before departure, the 17 children gathered to say goodbye, offering small gifts. Elsa pressed into Greta's hand the hardened piece of bread she had saved from their final day in the cellar. "So you remember," she said. Friedrich gave Greta the ruler and knife she had used to divide the bread. "Fairness saved us," he told her. Greta arrived in New York in September and was met by Catherine and Thomas Brennan. her adoptive parents. Thin and traumatized, carrying only a small bag with the bread and ruler, Greta broke down in Catherine's arms. "You're safe now," Catherine whispered. Adjusting to American life was difficult. Greta struggled with English, abundance, and recurring nightmares of hunger and measurement. The Brennans were patient, enrolling her in school where her precision and discipline earned respect. When Mitchell visited weeks later, Greta showed him the ruler and knife displayed on her desk. "They remind me what fairness can do," she said. Greta Brennan graduated high school with honors, studied economics at the University of Minnesota, and later married Robert Chun. Though she lived a quiet life, she never forgot the cellar. In 1965, she told her story publicly for the first time, explaining how exact division created trust. Fairness wasn't just moral, she concluded. It kept us alive. Greta's speech was later published in academic journals and became required reading in ethics courses. Philosophers debated justice in theory. Her story proved it in practice. It showed that even under extreme deprivation, fairness could survive. In 1985, 40 years after the war, a German organization invited Greta to a reunion of the Brandenburg Cellar children. She returned to Germany for the first time since leaving as a teenager. The reunion took place at a new school built on the site of the old one. 23 of the original 40 children attended. The others had died or could not be found. They were middle-aged now, but when they met, they were children again, hugging, crying, remembering. Klaus was a teacher, Elsa a nurse. Friedrich ran a small business. Without planning it, they formed a circle. Someone placed bread in the center. Greta knelt beside it, overcome. Klaus said, "We never forgot what you did. You kept us alive and taught us that fairness mattered more than instinct." They visited a memorial erected on the cellar site. The plaque read, "Here 40 children survived 3 weeks without food by maintaining perfect equality." This proved that human dignity persists even in extremity. Greta traced the words with trembling fingers. This was her legacy, not wealth or fame, but proof that justice was possible when selfishness seemed inevitable. Greta Chun died in 2018 at 87. Her obituary led with the Brandenburg Cellar. 40 children, 1 piece of bread, divided into precise portions. At her funeral, Klaus, now 90, spoke. That precision saved us, not just physically, but morally. Among Greta's belongings was the ruler, the knife, and a letter she never sent. "Civilization doesn't require abundance," she wrote. "It requires commitment to fairness." Today, those artifacts sit in a museum, proof that humanity is measured not by what we have, but by how we divide what little we possess. 40 children, 1 piece of bread, perfect equality and the survival of dignity itself.